Hello, my name is Alex and I am the host of How Bizarre podcast, and this is episode 21 of the series. Hopefully you'll like it and the show will make some traction in the time ahead. So, what is this podcast about? It's about storytelling, and especially about stories that are obscure, unknown to the wider public, strange and sometimes inexplicable, content that somehow never got the attention it deserved, stories that are forgotten in the mists of time regardless if they happened yesterday or some centuries ago. So if you are attracted to bizarre, shocking or just plainly weird stuff, I think you'll find this podcast very informative and perhaps even entertaining. This podcast is for mature audiences and listener discretion is advised. All that being said, now let us dive into the 21st episode of How Bizarre podcast. Name of this episode is Underground Objects Around the World. Strange is the need for the authorities and almost all the offsprings of evil known as states to build underground hiding places where they would hide in the event of a loss of power or in the event of a natural or anthropogenic catastrophe. Most of the countries in the world had underground hiding places ranging from a simple bunker to entire underground cities. The nuclear holocaust or the zombie apocalypse must not find politicians unprepared. The NORAD Center in Cheyenne Mountains and the Raven Rock Base in Pennsylvania are known in the United States for having huge underground complexes, in the first case carved into a granite mountain, where the U.S. government and headquarters were to hide in the event of incoming nuclear missiles. In addition to the underground cities, there are several aircraft, seriously modified Boeing 707 and 747, not only the popular Air Force One but also many others, E-4 Nightmare for example, the most expensive aircraft in the world after B-2. Also, there are suitable ships that allowed the continuation of actions after the first strike of nuclear weapons in any place. The Soviet authorities also had such miracles of ingenuity as the continuity of underground tunnels and buildings since the time of Ivan the Terrible. It is said that under the Kremlin there was a special subway line leading to other underground centers or airports, and it needed high clearance to get in. Most of these constructions were started in Stalin's time, and how many there are is the subject of speculation. One gargantuan center was under the Yamantau mountain in the Urals. Hitler once, as an uber evil but also striking person, had his own underground city under Berlin, and there was the Wolf Pit in East Prussia. Perhaps the only example of putting a typical doomsday dwelling into operational use in order to protect the government, even though we know how it all ended. Or do we? In Bavaria, there were abandoned salt mines that the Nazis modified into underground bases from which the Nazi guerrilla forces were to operate. The organization known as the Werewolf after the signing of the capitulation, committing atrocities in the Allied occupation zones. None of this happened. People were just tired of war. But that's why the legend of the Nazi secret bases in Antarctica remained. Allegedly surviving Nazis worked hard to create the Fourth Reich, which makes sense. I mean, what else would they do all day in Antarctica year after year? This theory is based on real expeditions before the war in Antarctica, where New Swabia was declared in a certain territory of the White Continent. Which is not so strange. Which continent would be more suitable for Aryans than the white one? In the area of ex-Yugoslavia, the most famous are the underground city of Tito, D0 near Konjic in Bosnia, and the bizarre underground airport Zeljava in what is now Croatia. In Romania, Ceausescu built an underground network under Bucharest, especially around his palace, which was the second largest building in the world by size after the Pentagon. Unfinished by the time of the beautiful shooting by firing squad of Nicolae and his wife, the object had not yet been sufficiently explored, and there were people that wandered and, exploring the tunnels, were never seen again. In Russia there is the parallel metro system that operates independently of the normal subway. It It was started by Stalin and was subsequently developed further. It is said that the metro runs from Kremlin to a secret airport and serves as a getaway route for the high and mighty of this authoritarian regime that is Russia today. In North Macedonia, place I begrudgingly call home, there are rumors about Mount Yasin where there was Yugoslav People's Army underground base that today was intended as a refuge for politicians in case of trouble, and some rumors about a similar construction in Krivilek. The basic idea of such bizarre constructions is the so-called situation of continuity of government, extension of the rule of state authorities even after a cataclysmic event. In other words, the authorities around the world say that they plan to wage taxes in a post-apocalyptic world of nuclear winter that can become a reality only through their fault. One would never assume that underground habitation for humans is so prevalent around the globe. I hope you all liked episode 21 of this podcast. Thank you so kindly for listening, and I will be back next time for episode 22 of the How Bizarre podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, sharing, and above all, subscribe to this channel, dear listener. Because, why not? Join me next time for another bizarre adventure through space and time. Cheerio.